Welcome to Founder Freedom from Hustler to CEO, the podcast built for e-commerce entrepreneurs and small business owners who are ready to work less, earn more, and scale smarter. In today's episode, we meet a passionate problem solver and an industry disruptor, John Sotter of Safety Direct America. John is on a mission to end the epidemic of slip and fall injuries, especially in homes, workplaces, and senior living spaces, by combining science, innovation, and unshakable sense of purpose. He's not just offering a product, he's taking an entire system of outdated testing, misinformation, and safety shortcuts. We will dive into the truth about floor safety and the lies told across courtrooms in America, how John invented a revolutionary anti-slip floor coating that works virtually on any surface, the realities of growing a solo-run e-commerce business while serving Fortune 500 clients, what it takes to scale a science-backed product into international markets, and how authenticity, grit, and a little bit of righteous anger are sometimes the perfect recipe for change. If you've ever wanted to hear how a small business owner takes on big industry and wins, this one's for you. Let's jump in with John Sotter. Welcome, John.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So can you tell us a little bit about the value prop of Safety Direct America anti-slip?
SparkleTuff. SparkleTuff anti-slip floor coating is something I invented 8 years ago. It's a two-part coating with very low VOCs, and it's incredibly durable. It's a new class of floor coatings that was invented shortly before I invented the anti-slip version. It's a polysiloxane hybrid. And it's, I'm an expert in floor slip resistance testing using reliable test devices. The test basically used around the world. And so I was testing so many different floor coatings that were tested using basically BS test methods created by the tile industry to say slippery tiles weren't slippery.
What inspired you to create SparkleTuff?
As an expert in floor slip resistance testing, I test for clients all over the world, Virgin Voyages and Apple and Ford and, people that have plants in various countries. So people would send me lab samples of their anti-slip floor coating or, a tile that they're having slips on. And then they, find an anti-slip floor coating at Home Depot or Amazon or some place that sells cheap Chinese crap. And they'd say, test this, test it with and without the coating. And I would say, basically using science of the pendulum, ASTM E303, it would say, yeah, the floor coating makes it more slippery. But according to, nonsense static coefficient of friction tests that are basically now dinosaurs and defunct, other than ASTM D2047, which needs to go away, these floor coatings were making the floor more slippery when wet.
Right.
And so, I created this based on science to add grit to a floor so that people like Tyson Foods, Virgin Voyages, people with slippery pool decks and other ramps and any kind of area can apply this to absolutely anything, epoxy, glass, anything, tile, to make the floor anti-slip in any situation. And it's very, very durable.
Right. So the challenger gap that you saw on the market was that the current safety standard was not accurate, and you wanted to solve that problem.
Yes. There's a lot. The insurance companies in America and the tile industry in America are a bunch of con artists and assholes, to be honest. Excuse my French. The insurance industry's job is to weasel out of paying any claims. That's how they make their money. And the tile industry wants to sell pretty glossy tile that's super easy to clean and say that it's not slippery. But most of it is slippery. So they create bogus test methods through scam organizations like the Tile Council of North America and the National Floor Safety Institute to create static coefficient of friction tests that say slippery tiles aren't slippery, slippery floors aren't slippery. So, there was a lot of bad solutions to slippery floors out there. People would call me up and say, hey, I'm having slips, help. I've got 2 lawsuits going and I want the lawsuits to stop. And
Ouch.
I would test it with the pendulum tester and discovered that the floor was slippery. And then the solutions that they had purchased from Chinese manufacturers or, local guys, playing around with water-based coatings weren't doing the job of increasing the slip resistance enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I created this to put an end to slip and fall accidents in the shower, on a ramp, anywhere that you have a slip problem. This will solve the problem.
Perfect. So the existing way of doing things was broke because coatings that were on the marketplace were pretty much useless. Rendered useless by your pendulum scale there.
Yeah, by international test methods, the coatings were just tricking American devices created by the tile industry into saying that it was more slip resistant.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just tricking the machine. It wasn't actually making the floor less slippery. And so, people were putting down these coatings and spending this money on anti-slip floor treatments and coatings and actually not doing anything. And the slips and falls were continuing to happening. So
as we know, just looking at billboards.
I just drove down from Los Angeles to Orange County. And I was talking to a lawyer the other day and I said, half the billboards in America are slip and fall attorneys. And he said, you got to be kidding. It's 2/3. You're not paying enough attention. And sure enough, I was looking at it. Yeah, it's 2/3 our
That's
personal
funny.
injury attorney. So it's this
So,
game that we're playing.
right, for sure. That's funny hearing that from an attorney. So, how does this product, SparkleTuff, solve the problem better than the existing alternatives in the marketplace?
Well, first of all, it's a polysiloxane, so it's sort of a new breed of coating that is incredibly durable. I mean, you can drive forklifts on top of this stuff all day, airplanes, all that sort of thing. You can grind away at it, with your floor polishing pads, and it's going to last for years and years and years. And what we're doing is basically applying a grit. This is a piece of clear glass, plexiglass. So it's a clear coating, but it's adding aluminum oxide grit, and that is going to stop your slips altogether. It's not some sort of, little trick, some magic soap or some sort of magical solution where it's not going to change the appearance of your floor at all. It's just going to add aluminum oxide grit to the floor tub, and it is going to stop the slips because, you're adding sharp points to the top of the floor, which is the best way to stop slip and fall accidents in the wet condition.
Sure. That's pretty awesome. So in thinking about this product and trying to bring it to market, what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about the product when they're evaluating it?
One misconception is that you can find a magical solution that's not going to change the appearance of your floor at all, and that is going to durably change the slip resistance of your floor. There are anti-slip floor treatments that people claim, it won't change the appearance of your floor at all. And what that does is it's a chemical etch that etches pores into your floor. And once those pores get filled with dirt, grease, or anything else, now you're back to the same slippery floor, and then you need to etch it again and again and again. So then they sell you magical soap that is actually a little bit of soap and a lot of the acid that they originally etched your floor with. So you're having your cleaning crew etch your floor over and over and over again, destroying your floor over time. So that's not a long-lasting solution. That's a quick way to do something, but it's not a long-lasting solution. Yeah. And the other thing is that you're going to find something at Home Depot that's going to be Amazon or something like that, that's going to be really tested using reliable test methods and really going to solve your problem. There's a lot of bad test methods in America. The rest of the world doesn't use American test methods. They only use the pendulum tester 99% of the time. And that gives you the truth. And they've been using it for 50 years all over the world. Everybody is in agreement that that's how you test the slip resistance of a floor. But in America, they have all these other dumb testers created by the tile industry. And so you can, all these things in these big box stores and through Amazon have not been tested reliably. And so you're going to paint it on the floor. It's going to last a week or two, or it's just not going to make your floor slip resistant at all. It's just going to fool some bad test device.
Right. That's sad. But, this is true about a lot of things in our market for sure.
Right.
And I was just thinking about like that acid etcher. I mean, not only is it kind of a futile type of coating, but, it's bad for the lungs for the guys and girls that are putting it on too. It's terrible.
Well, it's definitely bad for your skin. You definitely definitely don't want to get too much of it in your body.
No.
It's an acid. Yeah.
Right.
That's for sure. And
So-
you're just going to need to continue buying this stuff over and over and over. And they're going to call it floor cleaner. That's going to enhance your etch, but it's just another con. You're etching your floor every single night, or you're paying your cleaning crew to do so every night. For the slips.
Yeah, you see it happen in the stores if you're paying attention.
And when the slips happen, they say, "Oh, you need to buy more soap. You need to use more of our soap. You just need to." You're just telling what that means is you need to buy our etching acid more and more and more in the name of a soap and etch it more and more and more and more and more. And so it's a con where they just end up selling you more and more stuff, and you become dependent upon them. Kind of like
Keep
drug
doing
dealers.
it every day.
Yeah.
So thinking about successes of the product, do you have an example that you could talk about?
I've sold it to about 6, 7, or 8 Tyson Foods in the plants across the country. And, they're driving forklifts over it. They're swimming in chicken blood all day long. And, they're basically, 24 hours a day swimming in blood. And, it's been over a period of about 4 years that they just continue to apply this stuff in all the different plants across the country, food manufacturing plants.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a testament to it being and I've never sent it to the same plant twice. So that's a testament to it being durable and doing a really great job, because I can't imagine, stuff much more slippery than chicken blood, and then the degreasers that they use, I'm sure, once or twice a day to clean everything up for the FDA or whoever they're answering to. So, we've had it around a pool deck at UC San Francisco for 6 years. We've had people putting it on their epoxy pool decks and garages and things like that for 8 years now. It's been for sale for 8 years, and people just love it. I mean, if they follow the directions, they apply the stuff, and their slip problems are over.
Oh, so people put it right over the epoxy decks too.
Yeah, epoxies are very difficult to get anything to stick to them. So once your epoxy guy has his check and he's left you with a beautiful epoxy floor in your garage or around your pool or whatever, he's off to Vegas to spend that money. And, there's nothing he can do all he can do is, basically strip a layer of epoxy off and, grind it down and then add another layer of epoxy on top with more grit. And then he's guessing at how he's going to, how much more grit he's going to add this time and how much of a top coat to put on top. This takes all the guesswork out of it. You just apply one coat of SparkleTuff anti-slip floor coating, and there's no guessing. It's going to evenly distribute a bunch of grit across your floor, and your slip problems are done for a long time.
That's pretty sweet. I know that's really popular, these epoxy floor coatings lately.
More and more. And literally, I put it like 5 places across the website, like, we'll work on epoxy floors with no special preparation. Just clean and dry your floor and apply it. And every single day my phone rings. Hey, I just want to make sure, does this stuff work on epoxy? You didn't want to read any of the website, did you? Because it's right at the top. It's right, like the second paragraph, the third paragraph. Anyway.
That's funny.
It's fine. I like talking to people on the phone because, you rarely get the opportunity to do so.
So what kind of trends are you seeing looking forward in the industry? What are you trying to accomplish?
Well, I'm on a day-to-day basis. I'm trying to expose the cons and the scams used in courtrooms by insurance companies, the English XL VIT, the Broomgraber Mark 3B, ASTM D2047. These are 3 examples of absolutely disgusting test methods used by professional liars for hire. And these people are absolute sociopaths that use these test methods to say, that slippery floor isn't slippery. Even though you've had 12 slips in the last year, the security guard says that it's slippery. All the tenants say it's slippery. The building owner knows it's slippery, and they've all testified under oath that it's slippery. But then here comes some guy with a Broomgraber Mark 3B in a nice suit and a cute little smile that says, oh, no, I tested it and it's not slippery. And I published a bunch of stuff in a bunch of forensic journals and all this sort of thing. So you can trust me, jury members. And it's like, no, all the evidence points towards it's slippery. And these guys just go from courtroom to courtroom to courtroom for insurance companies, just lying under oath with their devices that they've created. They don't have a test method for these devices, not in America and nowhere else. And they say, oh, that's just because it's a patented device. Don't look at the shiny object. Look over here.
Right,
Polished floors are never slippery. They're never slippery in my world. And so these guys are, people are ending up in wheelchairs, are elderly, are dying in hospital beds. And these guys are just making sure the insurance companies hold on to every single penny they collect from these innocent victims, that are slipping on slippery floors. And so there's an entire industry of liars for hire. And they use the English XL and the Broomgraber Mark 3B to just say slippery floors aren't slippery.
Right. That's crazy, man.
And anywhere outside of the United States, if you walked into the courtroom and said, oh, yeah, I used the English XL to say the floor wasn't slippery, the judge would be like, nope, get out of my courtroom. We use the pendulum in this country. You need to have a test standard, a published test standard. It needs to be proven. It needs to be approved. And that's just some machine made in someone's garage.
Right.
Literally, yes.
That's pretty interesting. I'm just thinking, is this test method part of any standardized building code books, or it's outside of that? It's
outside of that. They specialize in conning juries into believing that, because their device is patented, and it was patented way back in 1996 when they tried to get a test method for this pass through the ASTM. And after 10 years of the ASTM saying, hey, we need a precision statement for this instrument in order for this to be a test standard. You need to prove that it's a scientific device. After 10 years, they said, okay, where's this proof that this is a scientific device? And they said, oh, the dog ate it. And so the ASTM withdrew their standard in 2006 for both the English XL and the Broomgraber Mark II. And so they painted the Broomgraber Mark II, and now they call it the Broomgraber Mark 3B, which is super cute. So yeah, it doesn't have a test standard. This has a test standard in over 50 countries. And what does the Central African Republic use? We don't know, because they haven't published that on the interwebs yet. But the European Union, Israel, Singapore, China, India, Brazil, the United States with ASTM E303. We all have a published test method. Australia, New Zealand, we've all spent 50 years studying floors and slip and fall accidents in places that don't have slip and fall accidents, testing floors, sending tiles to labs all over the world, and making sure that we're all getting the same results on the same tiles. They'll take a tile and cut it into 12 pieces and send it to 12 labs, and then we'll all all, send our results, and sure enough, we're all getting the same result. So it's not, user dependent. It's a scientific device. And every study that they do with these English XL and Broomgraver Mark, whatever you want to call them, devices, Mark II, Mark 3B, whichever color you like, they keep getting different answers. Each user will get a different answer because the user can like push it harder down onto the floor when they're working for an insurance company to say the polished floor isn't slippery. But when you got a couple drinks into these guys, they'll admit to it that, we know ways of saying a slippery floor isn't slippery with these devices, and that's what we get paid to do. Attorneys pay $25,000 up front for our help, and we'll go and do a test, which I will charge like $1,200 for. I'll do the test. They'll charge $25,000 for that same test because they'll basically guarantee you that they're going to say that slippery floor isn't slippery, even though this is the fourth person that ended up in a wheelchair on this floor from slipping when it rains. They'll say it's not slippery under oath for $25,000 up front. That's the problem with
everything can be bought and paid for.
What's that?
Everything can be bought and paid for.
And I mean, the rest of the world has a lot of the world has universal health care. They don't have a bunch of lawyers on every street corner and all these personal injury attorneys. So, and everything's not based on insurance. So, the rest of the world has figured it out. We need to stop slip and fall accidents because the government tax money goes towards paying for all the wheelchairs that people end up in. It's only here in the United States where, basically insurance companies and personal injury attorneys get rich while pedestrians end up in wheelchairs and hospital beds and in graves.
Yeah,
every day.
That's sad. So thinking about our business owners that might be listening, other entrepreneurs, do you have any advice for them looking ahead? How could they stay ahead of the curve, bringing their companies to market? Any kind of potholes that they might try to avoid that you've experienced?
Yeah, I had when I first developed this SparkleTuff anti-slip floor coating, I hired what I thought was a reputable chemist, and it turned out he was a bit of a scam artist in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And, he didn't really believe in laws. And so for a number of years, we were not properly labeling this stuff with, warnings like don't pour this stuff in your eyes, don't drink it and stuff like that. And these are warnings that, just have to go on to, keep it out of reach of children. These are legal warnings that every product needs to have. And especially in California. And, he just figured, I'll just do what I want and see what I can do. Well, that guy is now bankrupt and he owes everybody who's ever spoken to him money. And so now, I have a different team of chemists that are creating this stuff, and I have legal advisors. So, you want to do what you do with passion, and you want to do it with heart, and you want to do it right. You want to get good legal advice. So, everything doesn't blow up in your face. The chemist that helped me originally, has basically made an enemy of everybody he's ever met over the years of just lying and lying and lying and lying and cheating and just not following laws and thinking he's above the law. So
that's a big personality flaw there.
That's a big one.
So,
and you
want to line up with some good peers to make sure that
one of the last thing he says to me is, John, you can trust me. I'm a man of God. I said, good luck to you, sir. I know you've broken the law probably 10,000 times as you've been selling this product without any warning labels on it. So yeah, you're a man of God that doesn't believe in the laws of man. So
got to pay attention to that stuff.
I hope God is watching right now because you're a jerk.
Crazy. So what's coming up next for Safety Direct America?
Well, a lot of the same sort of thing. I travel from coast to coast, testing floors for slipperiness or slip potential, trying to identify slippery floors, offer remedial solutions to slippery floors as opposed to ripping the whole floor out. We sell anti-slip floor tapes that can help on stairs and bathtubs as well. SparkleTuff anti-slip floor coating has two versions right now, the standard version and the Light Bite, which Light Bite is for, commercial areas where people are wearing shoes and they're not running around doing, not in dangerous situations like ramps and pool decks and tubs where, if you fall, you're going to get really hurt. But, for shopping malls and box stores and things like that, your Home Depots and places like that love their polished concrete, and people are slipping left and right, and they've got their attorneys busy defending slip and fall lawsuits. That's what the Light Bite's for. We're also going to be coming out with a satin version or a less glossy version of it in the next few weeks. And so for people that don't want the gloss for some reason, but to me, a glossy floor means probably slippery, and our human brain automatically knows that from falling on our diaper a number of times, walking through a puddle on a glossy floor. So I think having the coating be glossy helps people to be more careful on the floor, and then the grit makes sure that they don't slip.
Right, like a subconscious kind of.
Even though subconsciously they're thinking, oh, this might be a
trigger
floor because it's glossy.
Right. That makes sense. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Developing your product line on to serve more customers.
Yeah.
It's a continual process.
continuing to spread the word that there is science that the whole rest of the world has been using for 50 years to determine the slip potential of a floor, and that is the pendulum device and ASTM E303. And then you've got instruments like the BOT 3000E and the ASM 925 and all ASTM D2047. These are all cons and scams created by the tile industry and an arms of the tile industry, like the Tile Council of North America, the National Floor Safety Institute. And these people are just trying to say that slippery floors aren't slippery to get the tile manufacturers out of lawsuits and basically blame it on the architect. So, and, architects need to know the truth because they're now starting to get dragged into these slip and fall lawsuits. Sure. And, I've been involved in a number of investigations over the last 25 years. People will never be the same. They're in a wheelchair. They have brain damage. People die from slip and fall accidents. It's the number 1 and 2 reasons why people go to emergency rooms are falls and car accidents. So, yeah. And the number 1 is falls. And a vast number of those are slip and fall accidents. So this is an epidemic. And in America, there's too many con artists that are playing this game with insurance companies, trying to get insurance companies to weasel out of paying legitimate claims. When a glossy, slippery polished floor has been installed, someone legitimately slipped. And as we spend more time looking at our phone instead of paying attention to where we're walking, more and more people are slipping. And as America ages and more people are going into assisted living facilities and, needing an anti-slip bathtub and and tiles outside of their bathtub, it's becoming more and more important that we protect the people that we love with anti-slip floors. And it is possible with technology to have anti-slip floors, and it is also possible to con people with American bogus static coefficient of friction tests and other nonsense.
Right. Well, you're set to fix all that. Safety Direct America.
I'm slowly but surely recruiting help across the country. What I'm saying is absolutely factual. You can Google it and you can see that the European Union, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Israel, blah, blah, everybody else is using the pendulum device to measure the slip potential of a floor. And so if you're using anything else like the BOT 3000, you're being conned. And so, slowly but surely I am convincing people that there is truth and there is American cons to make insurance companies rich.
Right. So it's a very interesting product, very interesting mission that you're on to kind of save the world a little bit here. So how can listeners get involved with your brand? What's the best place for them to go to?
So as of right now, we are the worldwide sole distributor. We sold it in several countries over the last 8 years, but safetydirectamerica.com is the website. And, you can basically call me night and day. Unfortunately, I work basically 12-hour days because we serve people all over the world. People are constantly emailing me and calling me from various countries, with questions and that sort of thing. So, if I can turn my phone off at 10 p.m. after, starting work at 9 or 8 a.m., then that's a lazy day for me. Today happens to be a Friday, and so I'm looking at all this work I have to do this weekend. And weekends are a good time for me to get work done because the phone stops ringing usually, right? And I can focus on testing people's tiles and calibrating their pendulums and getting things done.
Slog of the entrepreneur.
Yes, it never stops.
It never stops. Good to talk to you. So that's a wrap on this episode, folks, of Founder Freedom. Thanks to John Sotter of Safety Direct America for sharing his unapologetically real story from exposing flawed safety standards to creating a revolutionary anti-slip coating that he's making a tangible impact across industries. If today's episode sparked ideas, challenged assumptions, or simply made you laugh, do us a quick favor, share it with a fellow founder, leave a review, and keep the conversation going. To learn more about John's mission or grab a product for your space, head to safetydirectamerica.com. Until next time, stay sharp, stay safe, and keep building boldly.